Nicho Hynes had a brain explosion yesterday against the Manly Seagulls. Yes, he was giving it to the touch judge, giving him the three-finger salute, whatever that means, but absolutely giving it to the touch judge and then going up to the referee. The referee had a gobful and said, "Enough's enough, you say anything more, you're gone, mate." So I'm not sure what he said, but I tell you what, that the Hynes is under pressure, no doubt about it. Nicho Hynes is still struggling since Origin 1. He's only really had one good game since then, after being carved up by Cameron Munster. And to be honest, I just feel sorry for the bloke. He's absolutely under pressure. He's been the highest scrutinised player outside of Tedesco and Luai in the last 2 months. But the warning signs were there for everyone to see at halftime when they went inside the sheets. He looked lost, absolutely completely lost, and maybe he needs a rest because it looks like the whole world was on his shoulders. He absolutely didn't look like he was going to even turn up in the second half. And his goal kicking was pretty woeful as well. So does he need a rest like Tedesco? But unfortunately, the Sharkies don't have their luxury because they pretty much have to win 2 more games to make the finals. And at the moment, they'll be lucky to win 1. So they need them on deck. But I'll tell you what, they need to turn it around in a hurry. But their form against the top 8 teams, as we all know, is absolutely atrocious. And there's big concerns. And the big changes they made with Talakai being taken off and put Connor Tracy and Braden Trindle. And to be honest, Braden Trindle was absolutely not even in Kiwi in defence. He got carved up so many times. I'm very disappointed if you were thinking of him being the outs I thought he was. But to be honest, he looked like he was a reserve grade player in that game, whether he can improve if he gets another chance next week. But he was absolutely carved up in defence every single time. Cherry Evans had it on the dime and absolutely carved him up. He wasn't the only one, but he was definitely getting carved up big time. Will Hynes get a couple of weeks? We'll find out. We don't know what was being said. Obviously, it's going to come out today, but because I'm doing this video early, we will see what happens there. But he may get a couple of weeks for it. But yeah, to be honest, but going back to the actual pass, it was absolutely a beautiful pass. It wasn't forward at all. I don't know what. I can understand why Hynes blew up, but you just can't do it in this day and age. It was a beautiful pass. But the problem is when you go sideways or run a little bit backwards when you pass, it makes it look even more worse that it's forward. And that's the problem, what happened in that instance. But yeah, to be honest, the Sharks got what they deserved. If they won the game, it would have been a tragedy, to be honest. Manly were the better team. No doubt about it. They went to sleep, obviously, Manly, but they managed to hold on. Jarome Luai, what's happening here, folks? Is he going to leave? Well, if you're going to give up 100K from your manager to go look for another manager, I would say so. I don't know what's happening, but he obviously wants a bit more moolah, and obviously letting go of 100K must mean he wants a stronger contract. And so I would say he's looking for the $1 million plus contract. And he won't be getting it at Panthers. If he wants to stay at Panthers, he's going to have to keep his price similar to where it is now, $750K at the most. I'd say they would be able to afford him, especially when they've got Nathan Cleary and Dylan Edwards on the books, as well as a whole lot of other players like Brian To'o, James Fisher-Harris, Moses Leota, Isaiah Yeo. I mean, these players aren't going to be on small money, so big pressure for Luai if he wants to stay. But I think if they win a comp 3 times, I think maybe even if they don't, I think if he got 3, I think that would be enough. He knows he's won 3 premierships regardless of what the rest of his career is. We'll look after our family and take the big offer. But what big offer though? Because I think if you're looking at some clubs, the big offers would come from the Dolphins if he wants to go anywhere near there. Titans maybe, but obviously the Bulldogs and West Tigers would probably be the 2 teams that would pay over their $1 million to get in. The Dragons, of course, they would as well. They would be the teams that would be looking to sign him for the big contracts. If any club I would put him at to be the best player he could be would be the Melbourne Storm, but with Kevin Munster there, that ain't happening. The Roosters, I don't see that being the option there because I think they need a halfback, not a 5'8". Although he could take some pressure off Sam Smith, but he's not really a director sort of player like Nathan Cleary. That's the problem we haven't seen going there. The Rabbitohs, but again, they're looking for a halfback, not a 5'8". So Cody Walker there, not happening there. So yeah, Dragons and Tigers definitely, and the Sharks probably the most likely. If you were going to say who needs a number 6 right now, the Sharks absolutely need them. Put them in with Hynes, boom. To me, that seems the most logic. But Bulldogs, if he's going to leave Penrith, more likely be here. I think the Sharks, I don't know if he wants to live there, but I'll tell you what. But the Bulldogs having Crichton, Kikau and Burton there, that makes sense. So I can understand why if he ends up there. But it might take a while for them to get any chance up to anywhere near a premiership team. But it'll be heading in the right direction, especially if they could sign Tino as well. So to me, I just can't see. It'll be interesting to see if Luai wants to stay loyal. He's going to have to take big unders. Ben Hunt, a Dragon in 2024. Well, if the what came out yesterday is true, it looks like everything is done and dusted with him going to the Broncos and Titans. Honestly, I'd still be trying to push to go to the Broncos and the Titans. I think, especially if Tino and Fafita stay there, you'd rather be there than the Dragons. I think the Dragons might sign a couple of players, but there's so many good new coaches around that the talent pool is not so easy for Flanagan to get. He'd be more likely to rate a Sharks sort of team probably. Maybe mainly because he's been there. So it'll be interesting to see who else they can sign, because they really do need to get some big signings going. They're obviously getting rid of a few young guns like Jaden Sullivan, so interesting to see how that goes. But Ben Hunt, is the deal done with him not going to Broncos and Titans? I'm not 100% sure on that one, but Shane Flanagan definitely wants him at the Dragons. There's no doubt about that. And according to reports, he has said yes, I'll be there in 2024. It sounds a bit silly to me, but I think the biggest problem with this is I think the issue was he did want to go to the other clubs, but none of them were willing to give a good enough player to swap from. And I think that's the problem, because Ben Hunt's a very good player, don't get me wrong, but he's only got a couple more years in the game at the most. And why would you let go of a young gun, or even he keeps young guns, but why would you let go of a decent player to get him? That was the hard thing for myself, for the Titans. And most people didn't want to go to the Dragons, to be honest. I think that was the biggest issue. No one wanted to go to the Dragons, so made it hard for Ben Hunt to get that sticking point, because the Dragons needed a replacement, and they weren't going to get it from the Titans or the Broncos. And who else? I've been talking about the top 8 the last few weeks, but one team that can sneak in there and that's the leapfrog, the Sharks and Eels. If it's a possibility, it's the Knights. They're going to need a few things to go their way, but they have got a decent enough draw if they can pull off an upset or two. If they can beat the Raiders this week, then they're absolutely a chance at the top 8. They're the only team outside of their top 9 at the moment that can make it. The Roosters have to pretty much win all of them, if not 4 out of 5. I just can't see the Roosters doing it this season. I just don't see them. Manly, their draw as well, I just don't see them playing good enough. If they can barely beat the Sharks, they're not going to beat the other teams. But yeah, Knights are definitely still a chance at the top 8. But thank you for watching the Barry Charles Footy Show. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel, and we'll be back with another video shortly.